Welcome back to the procurement track, part of Commodity Trading Week. My name is Marie Fejose. I'll spare you the whole full name, the whole last name. I'm with Commodities People. I look after the content for energy and commodity trading in Europe. I'm very pleased to be joined on stage by this great group of experts. We are here to welcome. As Sadar was saying, digitalisation is making its way in every part of the business, and procurement is no exception. So what does that mean for that side of things exactly? Our discussion today is looking into how procurement and supply chain can benefit from digitalisation. So you will hear from our experts on stage about their approaches to digitalisation, automation of processes, the challenges they face as well, the opportunities they see to improve the business overall. So please be aware that we will leave some time at the end for questions from the audience. Scott, if you want to post some questions, you can go into Slido, and yeah, we'll do our best to answer them. And before we get started, I'd like to ask the audience a question. We won't be seeing the results just yet. We'll reveal that afterwards. So if we could have the first question up. So if you're not onto Slido, you just need to scan the QR code, select the right track, and then cast your votes. As you do that, I'd like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and to also share quite briefly what you guys see as the main challenge that commodity procurement is facing at the moment. Ladies first. Evgenia, you want to start?
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you one more time for having me here. It's a pleasure. And speaking about personally, about me, I'm representing Actia Group. We are 59.2% Abu Dhabi IDQ development company. Rest is a stock exchange. We are responsible for feed, flour, and basically food security in United Arab Emirates, because we're also holding strategic reserves. I'm having 15 years experience in grain business. Started my career back in 2010 with Cargill, when I spent 6 years before moving to Algeria, and that's how I moved to Middle East. And now still there after 9 years, managing basically the book worldwide. So it's hard wheat, it's milling wheat, it's feed corn, feed barley, soybean meal, wheat bran, DDGs, and recently also corn fermented protein. I hope there will be nothing more because it's already enough. Thank you. And speaking about digitalization, I also have to answer on this question, right?
I mean, just perhaps, what's the biggest challenge at the moment in procurement? So whether it's digitalization or something else?
Yeah. In our case, being a GCC importing country, I also spoke yesterday about this, we are really in the middle of territories which is affected by political crises. So we are sourcing a lot from Black Sea, both Russia and Ukraine. It's our one of main milling wheat origins. Actually, when I joined Actia, I met Ukrainian wheat to be approved, and Romanian, and also Bulgarian. It used to be only Russian before. And now it's Red Sea also for us. This is the issue. And of course, the recent escalation between India and Pakistan. So basically we're in the middle, because we're also sourcing a lot from West Africa. We're also sourcing from Australia, so let's see how now ships will be passing by. But some problems definitely we will have to experience, and it's not only war risk insurance premium which we'll have to pay. Okay, if there is a risk, you have to pay, but of course we are, as a procurement, we are more worried for physical arrival on time. You cannot call force majeure to your feed mill. And especially being food security company responsible, you cannot call force majeure for a flour mill. It's impossible. So, and doesn't matter even if you hedge it, right? Whatever, any position. But we need a physical arrival on time. And this is the biggest problem for us.
All right, thank you very much. James?
Yeah, good morning everyone. James Gracie, worked for JDE Peet's or Dow Egberts. For about 9 years now as technology manager for our trading and procurement units. So JDE Peet's, I mean, we're the world's biggest coffee roaster. I think we account for 10% of the green coffee beans that are produced globally, or certainly edging towards that. So yeah, looking at our biggest challenges, I mean, from a procurement perspective, it's pretty much what we've just heard. You know, the disruption to shipping, I don't think that's ever recovered since COVID times, and certainly will not in the near future, given the geopolitical events we're now seeing. I think added to that for us, of course, from a trading perspective, high coffee prices. In some senses, that introduces some predictability, but in other senses, yeah, that's difficult, certainly from a profit perspective, and passing that on. And I would say, yeah, there are maybe perhaps two others aspects which are worth mentioning. One is all the legislation that we're certainly seeing within the EU. You know, EUDR, CSRD, PPWR. I'm sure there's other acronyms I could mention as well. But I mean, that is quite a major headache, not just from administrative and maybe cost perspective, but really ensuring, you know, as a larger company, reputational damage is minimalized with the consumer, and also ensuring the, you know, passing on that information down there, the sort of ecosystem in terms of LSPs or warehousing or end consumers. And I think, yeah, the other aspect that's probably worth calling out is actually getting towards the value of, you know, the new technologies, digitalisation or AI, whatever we want to call it. And again, a whole series of acronyms around different technologies. But how do we actually start getting the value of those technologies? And I think that's for a lot of reasons, and we'll go into that later in this discussion, is proving a difficult nut to crack, certainly for larger companies.
All right, thank you. Ricky?
Okay, hi, my name's Ricky. I work at Backles. Backles it's a group company, so 40 companies worldwide. The UK arm is responsible for bakery ingredients, so procurement of commodities, agri-commodities, packaging, and energy. And the biggest opportunity, I'll put it, in procurement I see is not just the adoption of AI and whatever we want to call these, you know, buzzwords or whatnot, but how we structure ourselves before we bring in change. It's all good having a system, but what do we need to do before we bring that system in? Are there people changes? Are there retrainings? It's probably a mix of both. So, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but yeah, that's the opportunities that I see.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Let's just put up the results from the question that we ask you, the audience. My site is really bad. Let me have a look. Okay, so the question was, the question was, how digitalized is your procurement process today? And we have two front runners, partially digital, minimal digitalization. Okay, is it good news that we see no digitalization votes, fully automated, not a very high percentage as well. So hopefully this conversation will be of help, will be useful to everyone. Yeah, let's just start with the first question that I have here for you, Evgenia. How has digitalization transformed procurement strategy and decision-making in supply chains?
You know, during last, I would say 5 years, we're really trying to speed up with all those changes to make sure that a group is having the right tools on time. And I think COVID was honestly, from any perspective, it was a challenging period, yeah, for everyone. But it was also kind of boost and signal to invest much more and focus on digitalization. Many people had to work remotely, electronic signatures. But speaking about system for procurement, we used to have Ariba even before the COVID. So we're already using it many years, and we're still unfortunately facing a reluctance of our suppliers to use it that much as we want them to use the system. Tenders issued through, as I said, used to be said even before that time. Ariba is very, in our case, it's not that maybe supplier friendly. Yes, it looks complicated, but honestly speaking, there is also a lot of IT bugs and everything else. I agree with that. However, from other side, it's give you much quicker overview. You don't need to fill up tables of Excel, send it with different verifications to different desks, like for your financial controller or your auditors or your stakeholder or commercial or LT, whatever. So it's very good system, and it's very helpful for audit time, because it's clear what date, who was invited, what was the responses, who was top ranked, why they got beat, why they got award. So it's so clear, and it helps a lot, and I really recommend it. I know that other companies also using, like Nestle, for example. Actia is having different divisions, and by the way, Ariba is used mainly for commodities. During acquisition period, during last 3 years, a group was actively acquiring different type of feed companies, like for example, food and feed and beverage. Basically, there was some Nabil poultry acquisition in Jordan, then also in Saudi. We also added dates business, and for example, we see strong resistance of date business unit to use the same Ariba. You know, when you use such system, digitalization, it's helping, but also some, I don't know, I would think some people don't want to be maybe that transparent, and that could be the issue. Also, some people just used to negotiate in WhatsApp, which is, it's also the tool, right? 20 years ago, nobody was negotiating the deal in WhatsApp, I believe. And now you can attach the WhatsApp screenshot to your purchase order, right?
Yeah, I was going to just say, if I may, you know, we have a similar experience with Ariba. I mean, maybe that's at the bottom end of digitalization maturity, but the interesting point is there that the Ariba network, which is the sort of forum to connect to your vendors. The fact that a lot of vendors are reluctant to use that probably points towards agentics being the workaround for that. So that they would do a lot of, you know, the emails and the receiving of the emails and the reading of the emails rather than an actual sort of workplace, if you like, because that, although it sounds great on paper, it for some reason it's very difficult to achieve, whether it's an invoicing tool or whether it's some procurement trading tool like Ariba. So it'll be interesting to see whether the more AI type solutions like bots, basically, agentics, can fill that space, I think.
Something like possibly the application app, that will be nice, which your supplier can install. But also speaking about security, this kind of application can be very strongly protected to make sure that for example, your supplier lost his phone and the confidential data of previous tenders or any ongoing purchase order is not disclosed. Because, for example, in commodities, when you're competing for sometimes couple of dollars, sometimes cents, and you need to make sure that you're securing your market share at the confidential level. So I think for digitalization, and if one day, as you said, Ariba is the bottom, yes, I agree that it's not that advanced if you're talking about AI, but I don't see that coming very quickly, because personally I'm facing a lot of issue, even with, I would not name ABCD names of these high top traders who are still reluctant to use Ariba. So I believe it also has to be readiness of people for any application with to come, or whatever, any AI digital tool. But yes, I agree, it has to be definitely modernized, yes.
All right, over to you, Ricky, with a question around the cost side of things. So in what ways has automation helped reduce procurement cost while improving supplier relationships?
Okay, so I think there's a couple of ways to answer this. So if we're looking at automation in ERP systems, so for example, your ERP system now can generate a forecast and tell you when to order, and that's reduced the size of planning teams. So we'd need multiple planning members, and now it's, you know, 3 maximum would actually do it. And so when you're looking at system generated forecasts and when to put orders in, it helps with your hedging and your commodity risk management, because when you're looking at your year's exposure and when you're covered up until, you actually have a forecast in place and you know when roughly you need your orders. So it could be the case that you have a contract and you just call off as and when. That has less stock holding in your production facility, frees up space, frees up working capital. So there's a number of ways in which you know, AI or digitalization has helped cost savings. Now, looking more on the vendor side of things, supplier relationship management is a big tool. It's for a lot of businesses not a complete tool. So, you know, how are you rating your suppliers on delivery on time in full, the standard stuff, but also how they're servicing you and your strategic partnership with them. Longer term agreements are, of course, more beneficial for procurement teams, but sometimes you have to have a mix of short and long positions, and different suppliers can offer that. So actually having some kind of visual representation of what that looks like helps us make better informed decisions, quicker decisions, allows us to actually look at some of the other risks, and, you know, talked about tariffs and price changes, etc. Yeah.
Right. Anything to add on that, James or Evgenia, on the cost side of things?
I would like to add that if one day we will see this AI, because, for example, CLAL is also part of ADQ, they're working on such kind of AI. We have this program, we have this KPI, but it's also important what info you put in, because basically AI is just a tool which will, what put in, what you will get out, basically. So the source, we spoke, by the way, yesterday about it, the source of information and high quality, which will be, let's say, loaded into this AI is also important. But behind this program will be again human beings. So whose analytics you would use for your futures projections? Yeah, technical analysis is there already for how many decades? Yeah, still market can be moved if the funds will decide to close, for example, being squeezed on short cover. You will see, doesn't matter if yesterday you say your signal technical was opposite, right? So you will see absolutely different movement. I believe this AI tool is really needed because we're all going there and it's not avoidable, but it's important what information will be loaded into it. And again, behind this, it's by the end of the day, will be the specialist, I mean, the human. And you need to rightly choose people and or your company providers. So again, so you, regardless, even you create your own AI, you still need to make it run.
I think just to add on that, sorry. So a lot of businesses have mergers and or acquisitions of other companies, and with that come their legacy systems. And that's just something we've seen a lot in the industry. And that with that comes a lot of inaccurate data. Now, when you have loads of inaccurate data and you need to load it onto one system, that can present its own problems because, like you've said, garbage in, garbage out, right? So,
what in, what out.
Yeah, whatever you put in. well, in some cases it can be, right? So, what would take weeks now could take a number of days, and we're seeing that with how data is extrapolated, manipulated, and put back into systems. Some of the data providers here are offering that service as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, just very quickly, you mentioned cost. So, I mean, to start using these new technologies and to get the value out of that, I mean, that takes an investment, which isn't something that CFOs really want to hear or have been promised, of course, by the large consulting firms. They've been very good at telling us, this is going to be amazing. Oh, by the way, now we're in the trough of despondency or whatever they call it on their models, but we'll help you get out of that. But it will cost you a lot. But apart from that, you know, new licensing models will cost more than just an ERP system. So if you look at something like Databricks, which some of you may have heard of, or even SAP with their new upgraded version with certain AI features, the licensing models will cost a lot more because they're not just based upon a named user, they're based upon data usage or transactional usage. So the next, certainly in the next, I would say 5 to 10 years, those costs will actually increase because we're looking at data usage. So that's, I don't know if that message is quite landed or how it's going to be received when it lands. But that is something to bear in mind, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's have our second poll to the audience now. And the question is, what is the biggest challenge in adopting digital procurement solutions? I mean, you already alluded to some of them. So let's see what our audience thinks about that. High implementation costs, lack of expertise or training, resistance to change, integration with existing systems, or lack of harmonization across the sector. So as you guys vote, let me turn to you, James. In the preparation, you said that roughly 80% of automations are not providing the expected value outcome. Why is that? Can you share that with us?
Oh, if I could, then I'd be a very rich man. Well, I mean, the options here, I mean, if we're just going to take a step back and put all the, our ducks in a row, I mean, they're all reasons as to why I think that 80% is actually a Gartner figure. I would say, there are many reasons. One is most companies are not set up really for the new technologies. I think we're slowly moving from IT being IT to really becoming more of a business function. So in that sense, we're coming sort of full circle from 30 years ago, I think, but that change still has to happen. I think the way to leverage value is probably more in DevOps teams with business IT people, data scientists. If I look at my company, data scientists tend to be, interns. Quite amazingly, when you think of, the value is in your algorithm, or that's the way to leverage value. Well, we put that value at an intern level, so we're not really scaling up. I think at a CFO level, as I said, they're looking at, okay, so I'm going to make this investment, and maybe I'll give you a couple of million to play with over my dead body, but I might give you that. But so where's the value then? Where's this FTE reduction? And the truth is, you can implement Copilot, you can digitalize maybe document exchange, maybe use tools to cleanse your data rather than actually improve it in the source system. But that's not really going to change FTE that much. It basically will just mean that we're all going to be able to do a bit more, which is perhaps welcome, but it's not really measurable or scalable, so you can't really evaluate it. So it's very difficult to also impress upon the decision makers in the company. We need to reorganize ourselves. We need to upscale into different technologies or into different capabilities, I would say. And it's going to cost you. It's not going to be simply that within 2 years you can get rid of 10% of FTEs. It's going to be an investment. And added upon that, you probably need to invest in your SAP upgrade as well. So actually, your IT costs are going to soar the next 3 to 5 years as a longer-term investment. And when you look at the actual cases, the 80%, what is digitalization? I would say in my company, a lot of people still consider RPA to be digitalization, but we were doing that 7 to 8 years ago. So it's not really, having a digital twin and being able to do scenario management or look at different scenarios in terms of supply chain planning. It's not just producing Power BI reports instead of maybe using Excel. That's what a lot of people think. So simply the people on the business side are not really available in order to make this work. The skills are not there. The evaluation isn't there, and the sort of entrepreneurial, let's try stuff, and if it doesn't work, let's go on to something else. Those sorts of pipelines, financially in terms of resources, are not there. So I know it's a long answer, but in a nutshell, all these reasons are relevant. So companies are going to have to reorganize themselves. And lastly, we've spoken about the data, and I would also add business processes to that. I think when I started as an SAP consultant sort of 25 years ago, we were talking about the same thing. Yeah, we need standardized business processes. Yeah, we need proper data. Well, if I look at my company, we don't even have proper vendor hierarchy in SAP. So, I mean, that's quite a basic thing, right? But we're still not there, so I don't know what I've been doing the last 25 years, but talking a lot probably. But so we're actually coming full circle, except we now need to go a level or a couple of levels deeper and really sort data out in source systems, not just use another system to try and cleanse it and improve it. And we really need to then, I would also include tools like Celonis or sort of business process mining tools to really or Signavio with SAP, really streamlining business processes and look at where the pain points are and try and get the value from that.
All right, thank you. Let's see the results. Let's see what our audience thinks. So the two front runners again, high implementation costs, integration with existing systems. All right, to be completely honest, I was expecting resistance to change to be quite a high one, but yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, I would, it's interesting, honestly. Thank you for answering. Hopefully, if we would have a more number of people, probably it will be different shares, but still, in our case, I think lack of harmonization access across the sector, because we are, as I said, we are sourcing huge list of commodities. Only in my commodity risk management, I'm running, as I mentioned previously, 8 commodities, yeah? And we are sourcing worldwide. And every country has a specific list of quality parameters which they are ready to guarantee, which they are not. While we as a buyer have certain specification also to protect us, right, from any quality deviations. And our, by the way, specification is very strict. For example, I think it's to be honest, to be frank, I think it's one of the most strict in GCC. It's more harder than even Jordanian tender sometimes, I think. I would be very fair to our suppliers. However, given the fact, speaking about harmonization, is different specification. So milling wheat from Russia will be one specification. Australian premium wheat is 3 to 4 parameters only. Yeah, you will not find the gluten guarantee, which is must for us. Or for example, feed corn from Brazil is one specification, and US you have certain grading. Canadian hard wheat, you can buy CWS grade 2 or better, but we need better, and we need absolutely different specification. So we cannot force this, unfortunately. We even had a project with CME 3 years ago, when we actually, as Actia, personally, me and Vice President, we were applying and asking them to change soybean meal parameter in the futures. For the protein content, because basically US is not even supplying that protein, which is people are trading the futures of soybean meal. It's much lower if you check the spec. So it took us 2 years, explanation, conference call, they adjusted it, but it's still not matching the reality. Basically, especially when you have to pay premium for soybean meal over Chicago, so you're overpaying already. And basically, harmonization in commodities, it will be just ideal, but being realistic, I'm a very realistic person, I don't expect it to happen. Hopefully it will be a certain benchmark of consensus specs, and then hopefully, yeah, it's still, even the futures, if you look recently, by the way, the good news, probably maybe you heard Argos, with support of Chicago, they're launching now milling wheat futures to finally benchmark Black Sea to be kept, to let people hedge it. It will be FOB Bulgaria, Romania. Basically, you see Russian, Ukrainian FOB you cannot take due to obvious reasons. And yeah, harmonization is really needed, but this world is a bit different.
It's sort of interesting. I mean, looking at that, so obviously the top two are real major pain points because lack of harmonization is huge, I think, as is expertise or training at 0%. The integration with existing systems, I think, a lot of that is there. It's whether people invest in that or use the latest technologies. But it also points towards maybe a low, I would say, digital or DNA analytics maturity, perhaps a lot of companies that just, they maybe not really, they don't really have a data lake or just a limited one because, of course, you have all these systems and you can export most of your fields into a data lake, then, of course, then you have the capability to do a lot of analytics, a lot of what-if scenario planning. So that is interesting. So
just going on to those results again, I find it quite interesting because I have a very different view. So we have high implementation costs. For me, if there's going to be a cost, there should be some benefit. So if there's a clear benefit, then the cost explains itself. Integration with existing systems, we've spoken about multiple ERP systems and legacy systems, so that's a given. Resistance to change. Change, I think, is a big part of this because we can adopt a new system and we can bring a great tool. But like I've said before, if we don't have the right team in place, that the people part of this is very important in my experience. And yeah, that's why I'm quite surprised to see the results.
I mean, we understood that with these things, is like the sort of return on investment is a bit of a longer term thing. But James, will AI actually save companies money in 5 or 10 years? You reckon?
Save companies money. Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, obviously there will become a tipping point where companies have to build up their expertise and have to use AI. The sort of technologies under AI, I mean, we're talking about agentics, which is more your chat GPT and chatbots. We're talking about machine learning, of course, which is more deeper analysis using all those large language models and more statistical analysis. And in terms of agentics, we're talking about bots really replacing people, or a lot of what people at companies may do. So, you know, creation of a purchase order, or doing a lot of activities, certainly within the manufacturing unit. So I think in the next 5 years it will take a lot of investment in order to sort data out and sort processes out, and to really create a data lake whereby the data is there and can be easily accessed and sliced and diced. But these technologies are not cheap, so I think the next 3 to 5 years will require enormous investment. Then I think there will become a tipping point, and then I think you may see a reduction in FTE. I think in the next 5 years, maybe in certain sectors, there may be a reduction in FTE in certain jobs. But I don't think that we'll just end up doing a bit more, everyone, each day, or having better access to better analytics. It's also worth mentioning, of course, that there will be a change to what is required. So more people are going to be needed as data analysts and data scientists, and also, managing these tools, because it's all very well. I mean, my own experience within JD is okay. People sort of ask, all right, so we've saved time with using these robotics, but then we're also losing half of that time in actually managing them and managing the issues and why it didn't run or why it didn't work. So I don't know, maybe the next 10 years it won't be as pronounced as people think, but of course after that, and certainly if quantum computing comes in, which brings analytics to a whole new level, that could be very different. So who knows in the longer term future.
Right, thanks for that. One of the big trends that we see in procurement, and not only in procurement actually, but is sustainability and compliance around that. So, Ricky, I wanted to hear your thoughts on how digitalization can help in that space. I know you have some experience with some specific products, so can you share that with us, please? Palm
oil, yeah, that sort of springs to mind. Yeah, I mean, so far we've seen huge changes from sending stuff on WhatsApp and doing deals on there to actually having integrated ERP systems. And I think a point that was mentioned earlier was documentation tracking, and that traceability around that is super important. I can remember when we were first putting in an ERP system or changing it, and we had to try and convince the supplier that they had to upload the bill of lading and all of these documents, and that it would save a bunch of time. And how can you convince someone to change their way of working when they've been working like that for 30 years, and to them, that's the way to do it, right? So tracking is quite difficult sometimes, and we've heard that in some of the previous speeches, but traceability around sustainability is a big thing for all companies. The RSPO is the thing, but also you've got the MSPO, which is a Malaysian certification. So there's two parts of it: tracking how that comes through and making sure that you've got mass balanced or segregated, because they're different applications, different use cases. Again, it's all something that is made easier by digitalization of these documents and the tracking process. But again, it's not 100%. I think very few situations will see this is completely traced end to end, but it's getting better. And with the new adoption of these systems, it should improve. But yeah, sustainability and tracking the way your product is a big thing. Also, one of the tools I like to use is this ship tracking, right? And you input your code on it, and you can see where your ship is on the sea. But apart from that, there's not much. Yeah, and having more visibility with that gives more reassurance, not only you, but also the customer, that the product can arrive on time. Because you're changing production plans, your impact on your stock and your sales. So yeah, it's quite a wide application.
Yeah, and Evgenia, on the sort of contract management side, what are the areas that can be improved with digitalization? Where things are with that? So I know this is something that's close to your heart as well.
Well, I believe when you are working in the procurement side for the big group, or corporation, or even the small group or small company, procurement is always closely watched, yeah, and we have so many rounds of alignment on already aligned purchase. Even when we're signing the contract, there is a multiple rounds of signatures with names who has to put and validate with their visa the purchase order, basically. It used to be manual signing in Actia before COVID. Because of the special control, it's a big book of cost, obviously, for the group. Flour and feed, but at that time was the biggest budget holder. And of course, this manual signing was taking centuries sometimes, because one person is sitting in head office, another person is sitting here. Thanks God, now we have fully automated, and it's all electronic signatures. So giving the group is growing. It's people can be in Egypt, can be in Jordan, can be in Oman, can be in Saudi, can be in UAE. So it's just one click. So it's really helping. Basically, I cannot even call it AI. It's not AI. It's something which has to be done many years ago. We are here speaking about contract automation. I hope, and you know, it's a good example. For example, when BL started being accepted by many companies as electronic one. Also quality certification finally, but still some companies are requiring presence of documents to the bank through bank channel. So not many people, by the way, accepting payment against fax copies. You know, how many companies? Not still, they require still the full set of documents to be printed, to be signed, to send from bank channel to the bank. Then you go, you collect, and again, so basically, it's this process. I don't see it easy to be changed, but if fax copy payment through email will be acceptable, I think it's also the way to delay the payment. Let's admit, not in our case, but I've seen it like in the industry during my 15 years. It's a good excuse, even though you pay bank fees in such case, because even direct presentation of documents to your office will save you money, right? So, but yeah.
I think the cards are on the table if Anya is trying to not pay suppliers is what it is, right? No, but the contract management as well. With the systems we're using, in some cases, it'd make it a lot easier if you just had, you know, a prompt. How are you managing your contracts? Is it a manual exercise? Is it an Excel job? Or is it prompts that you're getting every so often to say, your contract's expiring at this date, like you would do for MLOR and other things in the business? And when that's implemented, it helps speed up that whole cycle. And you know, contract renewing can be the most time-consuming thing when you're looking at a large portfolio of commodities. So yeah, really automation in that, I guess.
Just goes to show, you know, we're trying to run at the moment, and we're talking about AI, but we still haven't really fixed the fundamentals at all. We're talking about document management, data quality, business processes. So yeah, let's see what happens the next 5 years.
Vendor scoring will be done, yeah?
All right. Well, we are shortly running out of time. So there were a couple of questions that came in. The first one is, how has Procurement Act 2023 impacted procurement so far? Anyone wants to take that one?
I'll let my fellow panelists answer that.
Is this a UK act?
I don't have the background, but perhaps the person who asked it can...
Anonymous?
Me, hands up.
Yeah, I asked a question. Yeah, Procurement Act 2023 changes the way companies will be actually going out to procure for different services and business. There's a few regulations that companies now need to follow when they upload their documents and also the stage they are at. Has this impacted you guys in any way?
No.
Short answer is no, because I wasn't even aware of it. But,
yes, it's
just add it to the list, I would say.
Okay, next question.
I would love to read this, to be honest. This I have now for tonight, you know, instead of bubble.
Okay, the second question is, are you seeing more responses to procurement using AI? If so, how are you managing this?
Responses.
I've certainly seen it within RFPs to try and reduce the administration and sort of contract management, and looking at aspects like which contracts are coming up for renewal. Do we have contracts from the same vendor with you know, different clauses and all this sort of analysis. So at the moment, I would say that is, yeah, well, the shift we're seeing, which is useful. I mean, it's not groundbreaking, maybe, but it's useful.
right. Anything to add? Evgenia, Ricky? No? Okay. Okay. All right. And then the next question, sorry, I'm reading it here. Are you seeing AI being used in response to procurement exercises? If so, has it been good or bad? And what are you doing to manage this new issue?
Honestly, this is a good question. I like it. Once I noticed that my supplier is using ChatGPT on responses and the email. And I didn't know since when ChatGPT was involved in negotiations exactly. But I think definitely it will be more and more into force. Yeah. And for example, especially in commodities, when GAFTA knowledge is so important and it's deep and there are so many different clauses. Some people will just definitely use ChatGPT. I saw it already. Instead of just going to
and
direct
then the public
clause
version?
and not touch it. And then again, yeah, it's important. GAFTA arbitrage happening even with GAFTA fully clarified. Yeah. So still, people even with the use of this tool, I think will face a few arbitrage calls if the information they extracted was wrong.
If you include it in your T&Cs, I'm not even sure we do. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and yeah, I think again it's important to understand what the AI, what information been loaded, as we spoke at the beginning.
That makes sense. So we are reaching the end of the session now. Perhaps just briefly wanted to get your thoughts on future trends in terms of digitalization. I know you mentioned quantum computing. James, are there any other trends in digitalization that you think will have a major impact in the coming years? With a concise answer, please.
Well, most certainly. So, I mean, we're sort of in the midst of that, but we need to build the foundations, like I mentioned, in order to attain the value, because certainly in other regions they are. You go to China and you're sort of stepping into a whole new digital world. So the trend's already there, agentics that can replace people doing transactions and sort of query-based chatbots, which is what ChatGPT really is. Machine learning, but that's, you have to then sort your data out and your business processes. And I would say also more scenario planning if you're looking at planning or maybe strategy in terms of trading or procurement. But then, of course, then you need to really move all your data into a data lake and have a digital twin, as it's the sort of buzzword is. So those trends are most definitely there. And also the trend in the workforce, moving and upskilling in other areas from areas that may now be inhabiting.
Thanks. Evgenia?
I think the future of digitalization is unavoidable, and I believe those who still keep resisting need to understand that the world is going to be developed by any means. It's not about being conservative. But it will take time. I hope that there will be more practical tools and practical use of what we call digitalization. But I totally agree with Ricky that any cost will be justified by the benefits. And obviously, there is no point to create any tool if there is no benefit to be used. So that's why me personally, I'm more, in our case, in commodities, I see not the issue of cost of it, but lack of harmonization, as we spoke, and of course, some resistance.
Thank you. Ricky?
I'm going to reel it off the AI and say the future lies within the teams, so the people in the processes. So, there has been existing systems, and there will be even better systems, but until our teams are ready and we have the right resource to use it, we're not going to be able to use it as effectively as we want. So I think the future lies within the teams and how we develop the talent and how we grow with systems.
All right, thank you very much. Well, please give the panelists a big round of applause for their insights.